Is that what you heard last time I sipped into that? Something like that? Is that the what I really wish I had is a fresh one that I could then just crack, like just as you say go, and just
Well, the go
oh,
has already happened, Zach.
hello
We're
internet.
into the show.
Hello internet. Welcome to Say Report Jr. I'm one of your hosts, Zack, and uh, the other one that yelled at me right now.
I'm Dayle Decker. That was great.
Uh, uh, well, welcome to episode 11.
Yeah.
We've given up entirely.
And to answer your question, no, it wasn't. It was kind of that sip noise, but it was
uh,
like just there were like
I,
two in that, but there was just one. The one I
I
heard,
can't
it
plan
freaked
it.
me
Yeah,
out.
you can't plan a ridiculous noise like that. It never comes out the same way.
Oh my god.
So welcome listeners, Say Report Jr. This is the show where two friends who have never met in real life get to know each other over recorded internet conversations. We already said our names, so we're just gonna jump right into this thing because we got a lot to prepare for. It's almost E3 time, exciting time of the year. But before we get there, we're going to just kind of talk about what we did this week, and I'm gonna throw that off to Dayle first.
I'm still laughing at the opening because that was so good. Um, yeah, so I haven't really done anything too crazy. I was continuing playing Pokemon Quest, which like there are people on the internet making how-to videos on Pokemon Quest and like walkthroughs and streams and like lists of what to do and tips and it's a mobile game, guys.
I mean,
That
it
is
does.
playable
I will
on a
give them.
console.
Yeah, I
Come
will
on.
give them that. Like, it doesn't tell you everything you can do. There is some stuff I had to figure out on my own.
Yeah, I
So I'll give
know.
them that.
Yeah, I know.
But
But it's just
also, it's Pokemon fans, and Pokemon fans gotta catch them all. Damn it! They're gonna do everything they gotta do. They'll go
well,
through every little inch of that game until they figure out how to have every single Pokemon by the time they're done.
there was
Because they're crazy.
there was one person who I watch on who I usually watch his streams, whether it's on YouTube or Twitch or whatever. He was doing a shiny race or shiny hunt in Pokemon Quest,
Oh my
and it's like,
God!
how is that even possible?
Talk about
Like I'm interested in watching it because how is that even possible? I like
without basically just like, oh, I don't want this one because it's not shiny, and then waiting, like playing another 5 hours
yeah.
until you can catch more.
I mean, that's
So,
what he does. He does shiny hunts and stuff. So he's already put the time in. Like, but for that game, I'm
yeah,
impressed that he's trying it. But anyways, that's just I wanted to bring that up because I cannot believe the amount of YouTube videos I have seen about Pokemon Quest. But it's all so I've been playing that. I started playing Pokemon Rumble World after we started. We're talking about Pokemon so much last episode. I was like going in on to all these like side games or spin-off games and
oh
just like
yeah,
getting back
all the
into
ones,
them.
all the ones that don't take 80,000 hours to complete, and they're
Exactly.
actual, yeah.
Exactly. So I was playing that, and then I saw the producers, like the original producers, with Zero, don't know how to pronounce his last name, and Gene Wilder, and it is a delightful film.
It really
Let
is.
me
I thought
tell
for the
you.
first time, I saw it for the first time last year because I bought the Mel Brooks like Blu-ray collection
Mm-hmm.
came out, so you can get
Oh
all of his
yes,
movies on
yep.
Blu-ray. Yeah, so I bought that, and that was the first time I'd ever seen the original producers. I had seen the musical 1,000 times
I
when
so
that came out and all that, but
it
I had never seen the original version.
yeah, it was my first time ever seeing producers like that story. I've never seen the musical. I've never seen the Matthew Broderick, Nathan Lane one. I've never seen that. So going in, all I knew was that they were producers. Like I didn't know if it was play. If it would if they were play producers, if they were movie producers. I didn't know if the movie was a musical, so I was like kind of going in pretty blind. And like that, the minute it starts, it's like you are just immediately hooked.
Oh yeah, because
Like
it's like it starts off
it's
with the freeze frame, doesn't it? Like he
yeah.
barges in the room, they like tackle each other, and then it freeze frames on them, and then
Well,
it's like, oh, by the way, this is the
yeah,
producers.
exactly. It's like a
That's what this movie
series. It's a series of freeze frames. So it's like this cold opening to a movie, pretty much, while I mean, it's not really cold opening, but it's the best way to describe it, in my opinion. But it's like going through and Zero's character, who I can't think of his name right now.
I should know
Um,
that because I've seen the musical enough times
yeah,
that you think I would get that. But also known as Nathan Lane, for those of you who
yeah.
have only seen the newest version of that. Yes.
So, it's like he's trying to get money out of these old women. So he's like trying to make them feel attractive and all that. But it's just cut into and freeze framing throughout while showing you the credits of who's in the movie and like just
Mm.
it's like this needs to happen more because this is inspired.
You really should watch the musical someday because that is a whole musical piece
Oh
of
my
Nathan
god.
Lane dancing in front of a fountain with a bunch of old ladies while he seduces
Jesus.
them. It's fantastic.
So good.
It's really good. That movie, play, musical, any of it, those are the only reason I even know what a producer does. Like,
Oh, yeah.
like I had never really had the concept in my head of what a producer actually does, other than oh, they're the people that get the money, but I never really knew how. And the
Mm.
idea that Mel Brooks is like, oh, they literally whore themselves out is how they get the money to make things. It's like,
I
okay,
mean,
no, I understand that now. I get that. I can wrap my head around that concept.
uh, that's
Uh,
great. Yeah, so but like it's also the comedy in that. The very the subtle things in it are so good. Are so good. And it's really sad cuz I don't think I mean comedy it's really a thing of comedy has evolved so much in the world from that, and it's crazy. It's crazy to think that now it's all we kind of got to be in your face to be funny. Yeah, we'll throw in some subtle things which are going to be more funnier which are going to be funnier than what we're trying to do in this moment, but it's going to be in your face. Whereas this one it's just like it's just someone in the background's face reacting to what's happening, but it's enough.
yeah.
It's like it's big enough for you to notice it. Or when there's a scene where they go across the the street to a bar to like celebrate their failure. Spoilers for the producers if you've never seen it. They think they're making a musical that's going to be a complete failure so they can take all the money that they took from people and then spend it all and become rich and whatever.
They're in what is commonly today known as the Adam Sandler business model, which
Well, there you go. Uh, oh man.
uh I mean, I
Um,
don't mean to, I don't mean to shit on Adam Sandler, but the fact is, like, he's been accused of that, where they're just like, oh no, he just wants to make a bunch of movies with his friends and go on vacation, and then he makes himself like he's both the writer, producer, and star, so he
mm,
gets like a bunch of paychecks from it, and also if they flop, it doesn't matter because then he gets to write them off as a tax write-off. So like he's living high on all of the flops he makes, and nobody cares. It's like, why is Adam Sandler still doing this? It's like because that guy made bank on Grown Ups
yeah,
too.
seriously.
No one else did,
Yeah, no.
but he did.
um, but while they're in the bar, so they're like all happy because they think it's a failure. Well, in the actual show, everybody's loving it because they think it's a joke. The
Yeah.
show is Springtime for Hitler, right?
Ring.
It's
Yes.
time
Oh,
for
good.
it. Yeah, okay.
Oh
Anyway, so it's
God,
called
it's so
Springtime
good.
for Hitler, and
It's so bad and so good.
people
Okay.
think it's a satire against Hitler when it's actually supposed to be like a um a show to like glorify Hitler.
Right. It
So
was supposed to. It
anyways,
was written by an ex-Nazi who was
exactly.
trying to show the glory of Hitler, but because the star that they got ends up being this like super flamboyant dude, plays off Hitler as this like ridiculous
Person.
caricature
Yeah.
instead. Yeah.
But there's a moment where the people from the show, it's intermission, they come in and the two guys, I know one of their name is Leo, and I can't remember the other
Yeah,
guy's
I
name.
can't think. It's
I
Leo
just
and blank. Like there's like a whole
and I
thing
just
about
saw
it
it.
that they're Leo and blank.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm
Um
gonna have to watch it again. There's my
oh,
there's my
is it
excuse.
Max? Is it
It
It's
is,
Max. It's
yes.
Max. There we go. So it's Leo and Max, and they're sitting at the bar with just this drunk guy, and they're celebrating. And then the people come in, and they're like, "Let's hide our faces so they don't see us." So they hide their faces, and it's just the people are like raving about how funny it is, and there's just this subtle moment of Max going across the bar and grabbing Leo's hand, and they just hold each other, and it's like, oh, your plan to be awful didn't work.
What I really
Oh,
loved when I first watched the original producers, the Gene Wilder and Zero, because I'm not gonna even pretend like I
yeah.
can guess his last name. The original. Um, I didn't know what to expect because like you said, comedy has evolved, but
Oh
Mel
yeah.
Brooks has always kind of existed in this space of being ahead of his time. I think it's why so much of his stuff continues to be
Works.
very popular.
Yeah.
And so you watch the producers and the subject matter and the jokes and all of it feels so much more modern than the kind of slapstick like Three Stooges comedy that it's coming out of. Like before this, like that's what comedy was like vaudeville acts and and Three Stooges and just slapsticky stuff. And a
Yep.
lot of that is in it, but then it's like, but then they're making jokes. It's what night? Because this was what the 35th anniversary. Is that what that was?
I think it's the
That for
50th.
50th even? Yeah, sorry,
Think.
50th. That
Yeah, I
makes
think
much
it's the
sense.
50th.
So 1968. They're 25 years, less than 25 years from World War II, and you have a Jewish comedian making
Yep.
the like craziest comedy about how ridiculous Hitler was. Like, are you kidding? Like, that's your joke? One of your leading characters that you're supposed to adore is an ex-Nazi, for
Yep.
God's
Yep.
sake.
Yeah. Like
Because I can't, like, I couldn't believe it when I was watching it. I was like, why did this movie feels like it was written in like the late 70s, early 80s as a parody of movies coming out in the 60s. And instead it's like, no, this just came out in the 60s. This was 4 years after. This was a year before Star Trek went off the air.
mm,
I was looking at something on Twitter talking about like old sci-fi shows and other stuff that came out in the '60s, talking about the war and stuff. And brief Star Trek. There's your brief Star Trek tangent for the week, everybody. Star Trek came out in 1967. Gene Roddenberry was a World War II fighter pilot. His his show stars two Jewish men, William Shatner and Leonard Nimoy, in this space adventure where they're off in the future.
Space
They have
adventure.
thrived as I mean they're not. I mean, Spock's an alien, so it's not like
Yeah.
they're Jewish in the show. But I mean, you have two Jewish actors. You've got Sulu, played by George Takei, who was in a internment camp during World
Yep.
War II, sitting on the bridge. So someone who looks like, I mean, to put it in as base terms as possible, looks like the enemy, sitting on the freaking bridge, driving the ship, and to be like, oh yeah, no, it's 1967, and like this is what the future is, by the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
And then you look at something like the producers, and it's like, this is what the future of comedy is, by the way. We're gonna look back at these terrible things that happened to us and laugh at how fucking stupid they were.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Just how dumb and terrible they were, and they're just like they deserve to be laughed at and ridiculed.
Well, yeah. It is the best coping mechanism usually is laughing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's also I notice a lot in like classic movies or anything is that physical comedy is just so much better. Not that physical comedy today isn't good. There are some physical comedians who are like Chris D'Elia. I don't know if you have seen anything of his or if you watched Undateable or anything like that. Do you know who Chris D'Elia is?
Yeah, probably.
Okay, if you
The name
saw
doesn't
him,
sound
you
familiar, but I
probably would.
probably see. Right, exactly.
He was in a show called Undateable. It was
Right.
basically just like they hung out of a bar, at a bar. He, whatever. So, but his physical comedy was the way that he could move his body into like these just contortionary ways it's so funny. And it's like, man, you're doing it right. But then you see other people trying to do physical comedy, and it's like, okay, this is funny, but you're going too far with it. It's like you're taking a joke that could have ended 5 minutes ago and prolonging it 20 minutes. Well, sometimes you just need to let the joke leave, and it's gonna be funnier than that.
There's a scene in an episode of Twin Peaks. Follow me on this one. There's a scene.
Okay.
So one of the things that David Lynch is known for is what he calls letting a scene breathe, what other people might call letting it go on too long.
Yep.
But there's a sheriff in the town. There's a sheriff's deputy in the town named Deputy Andy, and he is strictly comedic relief. He's big, dopey dude, paunchy stomach, kind of dumb. There's like a whole thing running where he's like in love with the secretary at the sheriff's office, and she's also kind of ditzy. And so it's like when we need comedic relief, we put Lucy and Sheriff Andy in a scene to kind of talk around their feelings because they're basically children. But there's this thing where they're like trying to get at something under a pallet, and the board flips up and smacks him in the face. And it is a good 2 minutes of him just wobbling back and forth in the same way.
Oh my god.
And I've seen that like and for some reason it works in that scene, and it's because it's kind of after like I can't remember the exact scenes around it, but it's like around some pretty tense stuff. And so it's like here's your relief. Take a minute to breathe because you're gonna watch this dopey, big, lanky, like 6'5" goofy dude just kind of waver back and forth, back and forth, and back and forth, and just have people staring at him. It cuts back to like Kyle MacLachlan just looking at him, just like
Oh
I
my
don't know what to do in this situation. Manuel Ferreira, I don't know if you know who he was as a great character actor, amazing character actor. His whole character in the show was that he was kind of a dick who was also kind of Buddhist, which was really strange.
Oh, okay.
But he's like, it's like his like second appearance, and he shows up, and you just watch him in the background, just increasingly losing his patience with what's going on in front of him. And like you said, it's just like it's a perfect reaction in the background. Like
Yeah.
they don't need to like sit there and make him like slap his forehead, or like stomp around angry or wonder what's going on. They just watch this happen, and it is one of the like weirdest and funniest scenes I've ever seen. As he's just kind of back and forth, back
pretty
and
good.
forth.
That's interesting. Like I now kind of want to watch that and see. Like
You could probably find that one. That seems like one of those scenes where you can find like that one scene
on you
of just like,
on the internet.
yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Well, I mean, that's pretty much been my week. I mean, other than being sad that Solo is just getting its ass handed to it, and that
Ugh.
makes me very sad because it was so.
I have a feeling
I
that
loved it.
in a few years when we have like more of those Star Wars stories to look at, and after Episode 9 comes out,
Maybe we'll have more Star Wars stories. Who knows?
we will. Here's the thing. So somebody pointed this out. Kathleen Kennedy's the woman that took over
Yeah.
Lucasfilms after
Appar-
George Lucas
Rumor,
sold it.
Yeah, rumor is she's stepping down or leaving or something.
I haven't heard any of that.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe. I'll believe that when it happens. That woman
no.
woman produced Jurassic Park and Jaws, like a bunch of Spielberg and like other George Lucas venues and a bunch of other stuff from like the late 80s into the early 90s.
Yeah.
She has been producing some of your favorite films. Just the fact that she's like the face of Lucasfilm right now means that she's getting the brunt of it.
Yeah, which
Although
sucks.
unfortunately Kelly Tran is apparently getting even more of the brunt of it. Which is the worst thing in the world. Leave actors alone, people. Let them.
Seriously.
They just do things. Unless they're a bad person in real life, you can go after them dead, but don't harass them when they're just perfectly nice people doing their job.
That's the thing too. Is like, actors are there to portray a character. If the character sucks, which, whatever. If a character that a person plays you don't like, it's not the person who's playing them. That's not their fault.
It's not even the director or the writer's fault. Like it's not like we're saying go harass them instead. Don't harass anybody.
Yeah,
Harassment is bad. We're taking a very firm stance on Sayreport Jr. that harassing people might be a bad thing.
If you think it's so easy, go out there and do it yourself. How about that?
Exactly.
Oh my god, so many things just fell because I am so passionate about this. Oops.
Well, you know what doesn't have toxic fandoms? Video games. Let's talk about video games.
Video game.
Oh God. The sad thing is that I'm gonna talk about that again sometime while we talk about this.
What?
So
yeah,
man.
last thing. Don't be rude to people. Again, unless they're a bad person in real life. Like honestly, these people work hard. These people work hard to make movies to entertain you. Just let it happen.
Coming from someone
happen.
Coming from someone who's trying to kick his addiction to fighting with people on Twitter, let me tell you, You don't feel good about yourself afterwards. You never do.
Yeah.
You're not going to change anything. You are not going to change the billion-dollar Disney corporation's like business
Yeah.
plan. You're
Exactly.
not.
No.
So,
Nope.
oh
Anyways,
man.
segue to video
Oh God, I
games.
want to talk about video games, but I just remembered something talking about that.
Oh god.
Hold on, because
Oh
we should have
no.
talked about this a while ago. It'll take like 2 minutes. Wreck-It Ralph 2
Oh yeah.
got a new trailer this week.
I am staying away.
Which
I've
start
seen nothing.
Oh, good. I won't even tell you what the trailer is, but the trailer has a very good scene. That's all I'm going to say. And I'm excited for you to see it in the film. But I really want to talk about the fact that it's named Wreck-It Ralph 2 Wreck-It
Breaks
Ralph
the
Breaks the
internet?
Internet
Yeah.
because we needed to talk about where that phrase came from. Where are we 20 minutes into this? I talked to my
We
parents over the
are.
weekend.
We are.
Good. I talked to my parents over the weekend, and my dad was like, "I like listening to both your shows, but after 20 minutes, and I can't recognize anything you're saying anymore. I turn it off." So this is a good time to find out. Are they okay? They're probably not listening anymore. Good. We need to talk about where the phrase "break the internet" comes from because it comes from naked Kim Kardashian. Disney,
Yep.
I realized that what you probably have is a bunch of 40-year-old dudes sitting in a writer's room who went, "Hey, break the internet seems like a popular phrase. We should name the movie that, but you should recognize that phrase, while it may have existed before this, is mostly popular because Kanye West and Kim Kardashian did a photo shoot in which
Yep.
Kim Kardashian was very naked, and then they posted the pictures online and said the phrase, 'We're gonna break the internet with this.'"
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
So
That's
just
Disney.
Disney. I know you're listening. You probably listen to everything that says the word Disney just to make sure to see if you can sue them. So I know you're listening now.
Don't invite that
You
into
can't.
this. Why would
Especially
you say
you're gonna get enough crap. You're gonna get enough crap for the Emoji Movie comparisons when this finally comes out. You don't need the break the internet stuff on top of that.
Listen, the Emoji Movie is a fantastic film, and I wish I was kidding. I love that movie
I'm gonna
more
have to actually
than
watch
I
it.
should. Have you
I'm
never
gonna have
seen
to.
it?
No, because I didn't want to. I didn't. I refused.
You gotta do it for the podcast now.
Oh,
Do it for
God.
the
Fine.
cast.
After E3, I will watch.
Yes.
I will make sure that the Emoji Movie
Oh
gets
my god,
watched.
I'm so excited now. Anyway.
God. So that's all I want to say about that. Now on the E3. Those of
Yes.
you who do not know what E3 is, E3 stands for the Electronics Entertainment Expo. It's the biggest video game conference there is. For many years, it was press only, but the last year, I think it was last year, they actually opened it to the public in what might be one of the dumbest moves they've ever made. Because they are
Yep.
not a public event. They're not PAX, right? They're not made
No.
for the public. They're
Mm-mm.
made for the press to come see stuff and then report on it to make video games look good.
Yeah, 'cause
That's all E3 is for.
It's basically just press conferences.
It's press conferences for 3 days, and then it's 4 days of people scheduling one preview out of the 1,000 they should be sitting in, and it is entirely doctored, and it is so performative, and most of what you see is not going to look like that when it comes out. It's great because it is it's like every year, like it's 2 months leading up to it. It's E3 sucks, and we have to remember that Ubisoft did this terrible thing or EA did that terrible thing, and then the week of E3, it is nothing but people loving on games for like 4 days straight, and I love every second of it. I love every second of that hypocrisy from start to finish.
Oh man.
So we're going to talk about the different press conferences really quick,
Yes.
because what generally happens, like I said, it's a weekend of press conferences, and then the games press at large kind of goes to this convention for a week and sees the previews and like reports on it and stuff. And these press conferences have gotten huge. I know that you said you went to you went to the big Sony one in a movie theater.
In a movie
Like
theater,
that's
yeah.
how big it was. And when you were looking at it, when you were actually watching where it was, they were off site in this massive, massive place, this massive auditorium.
Yeah.
They've got, and they've got a different set piece for every game they're previewing. They got the zombie game they've been pushing for years, it feels like.
Days Gone.
Days Gone.
Yep.
And they've got bodies hanging from the ceiling.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like, it's an insane production for everybody.
I mean,
It's an insane production for everybody.
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, and dedication. Like I appreciate it sometimes though.
I mean, it's where a big part of their budget goes for
Yeah.
marketing every year. Like it really did become like for because for years it was just like E3 would happen and then you would read about it later. And then as soon as pretty much as soon as the internet came along, because no TV channel was going to put this on.
No.
No TV channel is going to take a weekend out of their scheduling and put up these broadcasts. But as soon as the internet was available, you could watch these live. They're going to have Twitch makes bank on this weekend of
Oh,
people
they have to.
just
Yeah.
loaded on. They do their own like after shows every year. Like that's how like Twitch is like living on E3 right now, and
Yeah.
good on them for it. Because the other thing is, every gaming outlet is using Twitch to do their own version of it. So Twitch has their own, and then there's also IGN, Polygon, Waypoint,
Mm-hmm.
Kotaku. All of them are doing stuff. All of them are putting videos up all throughout. So let's get into the schedule. Talk about these companies because it's a mix. You get
Yes.
Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo, the big three
Mm-hmm.
consoles and publishers out there. But you also get a couple of publishing development houses that do their own thing. And it usually starts in, well, this year with EA. Have you ever watched an EA press conference, like
No.
any bit of it?
So just like I usually am the person who is not watching the stuff live because I'm either doing something during the conference or I just can't sit there through all the
Yeah, I mean, these things
like
go,
it's like I
these
just
things
want
go
to know
on
what
for
games are coming
hours.
out. I just
talking
want to
about-
know.
Yeah, you're talking
Exactly.
about eight 2-hour press conferences over
Yeah.
like 4 days, basically.
So I've never really the only one with the exception of that Sony one, which again, like I said last week, was an experience. I mean, it is called the Sony like E3 experience
Oh yeah,
because it's different than just sitting in front of your computer watching it by yourself or maybe with a friend. But it's like if that was a thing, if I could do that, I would do that. But it's
sounds like
I
it's like when
usually-
those it's like when those theaters were doing, hey, watch every MCU movie up
Yeah.
until Infinity War, so which means that for
marathons.
3 days, sit in your own filth and watch a bunch of movies.
Yeah, I mean, and have movie popcorn. So
Yeah.
you win some, you lose some. That's all I'm saying. But no, I'm
Ugh.
usually the person who will just like wait until E3 is maybe catch some highlights here and there, and then just look at the list.
Yeah.
And then if I am curious about a game that is on the list, then I will go to the press conference, and because they're recorded, they are
Oh, right.
always
Yeah.
up
You can always watch
afterwards.
them again. Yeah. I watched them live. I watched
Yeah.
20 hours of nothing last week. I can
That
tell
is
you,
true.
I will watch most of these live.
This year I'm going to try my best to because I want to talk about it and I
Right.
think it's going to be
Well,
fun to talk
let
about
me do
it.
your guide through some of these because the EA one especially, you don't have to watch the whole thing. So a big thing that has happened, and a big reason why they opened E3 to the public, is that there are actually less and less companies going to E3 because they're starting to realize that now with things like Twitch and
Yeah.
like 1,000 different gaming outlets and their own press release, all of this stuff, they don't have to rely on E3 the way they used to. They can just leak something and it gets written about for months before they make an
Exactly.
official announcement. So more and more, you're seeing companies not even bother to go to E3, and EA has done that for this. I think this is their 3rd year running. So they do the EA All Access or the EA Experience. They call it something.
I think it's all
They-
access. I've heard that
Yeah.
before.
And they rent out like a whole space for themselves, like down the street from the actual conference, and they put on their own show, and they are the only thing that goes on Saturday. So,
Yeah.
looking at the article I sent you, so I'm looking at Kotaku. If anybody's interested, looking at Kotaku's schedule. I mean, the schedule is obviously available a bunch of places, starting at 2:00 your time.
I
Right?
believe so,
I'm trying to
yeah.
think of because it's going to start at noon my time. Yeah, so starting at 2:00 on the East Coast, 11:00 on the West Coast, everything in between. EA is going to do their press conference, and it's going to be about an hour and a half, 2 hours of actual like previews, like a normal press conference, and then the rest of the day it's going to be them re-previewing those more in depth. Like they're going to show you, like last year they announced Battlefront 2 was the announcement last year, and so after all of their press conference stuff was done, they straight up had like a LAN battle of Battlefront 2 to show off the game. And they had people there, announcing it, and they had different interviews as it was going, and they were showing off the game and stuff like that. So that'll happen like throughout the day on Saturday.
Yeah.
Um, but what I'm hoping doesn't happen this year is YouTubers, because that's what the last year was like all about. They're trying to figure out like Twitch streaming and YouTube streaming and people who talk about games on YouTube and this whole popular market, but they didn't get a lot of game people from YouTube.
Oh, really?
So there was like one guy, I don't remember his name. That's okay. I'm about to kind of crap on him anyway, so it's a good thing I don't remember his name. But he's
Seriously.
more popular. He's more popular for doing like prank videos with his girlfriend than he is about anything video game related. But I mean, you watch his videos and you go, okay, this guy's personable. He's great. Likes talking to people. He's funny. I would love to put this guy in front of a crowd to just talk about anything as a great host. This guy looked like a deer in the headlights for the 20 minutes that they had him speaking.
Jeez.
20 very excruciating minutes of watching this guy stammer through cue cards, talking about stuff he clearly didn't understand,
Oh my
didn't know how to deal with the fact that, like, normally, if anybody's ever watched like a blogger on YouTube, they're usually by themselves or with one other person in their own home,
Yeah.
in the most comfortable environment you can be in. And this guy is in a room with with 500 to 1,000 people, in just like talking to a camera with an audience that is probably 5 times what he actually, like, he doesn't do anything live, like
Yeah,
not
no.
talking live to people.
That's crazy.
And that ended up carrying through the rest of E3 last year. Like Ubisoft, I don't know if it was Ubisoft or someone else did, might have been Microsoft, showed off like a competitive multiplayer game, kind of like Overwatch, and their way to show that off was to not really announce the game. Just all of a sudden, they were showing a preview of it, and some guy stood on stage shouting into a microphone like a bad, like sportscaster
Oh, what?
for the whole 5 minutes of this preview.
Jesus.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and like that's because that's where they think it's going. They think it's
Yeah.
going towards esports and multiplayer and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and that's fine. I have no problem with games going that way, or with people, like, that's where the money goes. But like, don't make your press conference based on that.
There are other
um,
ways to do it.
yeah.
That's
So
crazy.
So EA will be on Saturday. They'll show off all of their sports games. They'll show off the upcoming Madden.
Mm-hmm.
Though last year they showed off. So the new Madden came out and it had a story mode, like a Telltale
Yeah.
game style
Yup.
story mode
I was actually interested in it because
that
of that.
starred
From, like,
Mahershala Ali.
yeah.
It starred like an actual Oscar-winning
Yeah.
actor.
Yeah. I was very into that because again, I had to take a quiz on it, and I was like, this is super cool. Like, and then I think the show did a similar thing.
The show or the newest FIFA, like, they have been doing that kind of style,
FIFA did
like
it too. Yep. Yep.
yeah, FIFA's had this like career mode with like a
Mhm.
very singular character for
Yeah,
a couple
yeah.
of games
Yep.
now, and it's really worked out for them.
Yeah, it's kind of cool because that's kind of like sports games. You can only do so much. Like, yeah, okay, I'm playing a game that I could be playing in the real world. It's like I kind of want more, but like story gives that. So it's good that they've kind of realized that.
Yeah.
That you can
Um,
give it a little bit more longevity if
yeah.
you give it a story mode.
But also, like I said before, this was their big show off of Battlefront
Yeah.
2, which became such a massive shit show for them at the end of
broken
last year.
thing? Yeah, it was
It's,
bad.
well, I mean, broken.
So bad.
Did you actually play it? I never
No.
actually played.
No,
Okay.
I never played
didn't
it.
know
I
that
just
there
know
were some
that-
glitch problems,
Yeah.
but it was the loot boxes that really got them at the
Well,
end of that year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I mean by broken.
Oh.
Like they
Oh,
broke
okay.
themselves by doing the loot
That's
box.
true. They broke
Um,
themselves so bad that freaking Disney had to call them and be like, "What are you doing with
Yeah.
our property?"
People are
Uh,
hating you,
yeah,
and by extension, us.
yeah. So again, if my parents are still listening, Star Wars Battlefront 2 is a multiplayer game in which you play out the different battles in from the Star Wars games, where you get to play on either one side or the other, and
Mhm.
you play different versions of soldiers. There are some that have bigger weapons and some that are medics and that kind of thing.
I played.
And they let you play through all the different machines, and
Yeah.
sometimes they let you play as really famous characters, but only sometimes. So
I played through the first. No, I didn't play through the first one, but I did play the first one, and it's fun. I mean, running around as Palpatine, zapping people was really fun.
I haven't played it
Um,
since like the PS2 original Xbox era. I've got it sitting out here for like original Xbox.
nice, nice. Yeah, no, I mean, I don't own it. It was just I was at my friend's house, and he's like, "You want to play this?"
Yeah.
I'm like, "Sure."
Um, and then they'll also show off. EA is the one that does the Battlefield games, which is the answer to Call of Duty. Battlefield is the other big war
The more
franchise.
realistic answer to Call of
Yes
Duty.
and no. Yes and no.
That's what
More
I've heard.
realistic.
I don't know. I heard
So
that.
they sold themselves
Yeah.
as the more realistic for a while, and then at some point when you know what, it'll actually be way more like realism is not as important. They still go for it, but not as important to them because Call of Duty also kind of went that way in a lot of
Yeah.
places, especially with their World War II return last year.
Mhm.
Was like we're going back to what World War II was really like with
Yeah.
loot boxes coming down on Normandy Beach. Uh,
Because
and so
that happened,
Battlefield
right?
yeah, and so especially Battlefield 5, like they did a big announcement for it a few weeks ago and really showed it off, where they're still doing the realistic stuff. Forget every white guy that yells at you on the internet about a woman being in battle. It still looks awesome.
Mhm.
Where they're going to highlight different, like their whole thing. They did Battlefield 1 last year, which was
Yep.
their World War One game,
Mhm.
and the way that they structured the campaign in that game was you did different stories within the war. So rather than it being like an 8-hour campaign of one character, you would play a couple of you would play like one or two characters for a couple of hours, finish their story, and then do a new one in a different location and stuff like that. So you get all these different like theaters of war and stuff like that. And that's kind of what Battlefield 5 is going to be like, returning to World War II as well.
Yeah.
But they're going to do things like go into the Soviet, like the Soviet army where they had the women snipers and all this stuff.
Oh wow. Okay.
Like that, they're going to do stuff like that. And then their multiplayer is going to be very class based, where like different characters, kind of like in Overwatch, the different characters have different like Uber or whatever they're called, ultimates or whatever.
Ultra,
Oh,
yeah.
there it is, ultras.
No, it's ultimates.
But
Ultimate attack.
the characters in the Battlefield 5 like multiplayer characters will do the same thing.
Yeah. Oh
So
wow.
yeah, yeah. So we're gonna see probably a
Interesting.
bunch of that on Saturday.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
that's
I'm sure.
and then also BioWare's new game, that they've been working
Mm.
on, which is called Anthem, which looks like a mix of Destiny and Mass Effect, which
Oh,
may
I
be
haven't seen
interesting.
anything about that.
Yeah, that showed off during the EA and then I think the Microsoft press conferences last year. That was like their first kind of announcement of it. But this year we're probably gonna get more detail.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's again more multiplayer based like Destiny is, but it's like the environment and the character models and all that look very Mass Effect,
Very
which
cool.
looks really interesting. So that's kind of what to expect from EA. Like I said, the rest of the day after the actual like announcements are done
Mm.
is going to be a lot of preview of things. They'll show off probably some like they showed off some like mobile Star Wars game last year that nobody cared about. They did it for like what felt like forever, of like previewing it.
Yeah.
So after they do like the full announcements and they start like going to different groups of people playing games, you're done. You don't have to watch the rest of that if you don't want to
Yeah.
because it's not worth it.
All right. Good to know.
Yeah. So then on Sunday,
We have
we're going to start the day.
Microsoft.
It's Microsoft, 1 p.m. Pacific, so that's 5 your time,
4.
4 your time, 2 my time. Yep. I
have
added
it in
4
front of
instead
me.
of I added 4 instead of adding 3. That was so Microsoft. So Microsoft is interesting. Last year, it was almost entirely indie games.
Yeah.
The big joke about Microsoft and Xbox right now is that Xbox does not have a lot of great exclusive anything. Anything that you can get is not only available on PC, where it's going to look a lot better if you have a good gaming PC, but it's also available on PlayStation. So, and the exclusives they do have are not super great.
Yeah. No.
But they just announced Game Pass, which is this great program where I think it's like $10 a month, and you basically get the few exclusives that they do have. You have like
Sweet.
instant access to them.
Oh.
You're basically paying just like a subscription fee to
Yeah.
just like get all of their exclusives as they come, and then it comes with some other like multiplayer stuff and all of that.
Now, if you
Without-
stop paying it, do you lose all that?
That is a good question. That I don't know because I know that's
Yeah.
how it works on PS Plus.
Yeah.
Every like PS Plus free game you get goes away if you stop paying them. But Microsoft a few weeks ago did something, and I have serious doubts that this will show up at E3. But it was the first time I ever thought that Microsoft was worth giving, that I have thought in years, I should say, that Microsoft was worth giving my money to solely to support them. And it was because they announced a disability capable controller. Have you seen anything with that?
No.
Yeah, so I don't care about their games. They're going to probably do a bunch of indies which are going to look really cool, and maybe a few things
I'm
like they'll probably also show off Anthem and
yeah,
some other.
I'm slightly
But
excited for Microsoft.
yeah, I'm always willing to be surprised by Microsoft. It's just that like last year especially was like they were announcing the Xbox One X,
Mm.
which was the big thing, their big 4K thing, and
Yep.
then like a bunch of indie stuff, and so they didn't have a lot of great exclusive looking stuff.
Yep.
Which is not to say that the indie stuff looked fantastic. Some of it looked amazing. There's one, and I gotta look up the name of it, and we'll talk about it when we talk about Microsoft probably in part one next week.
Probably.
Um,
I break it down
right.
that way.
Yeah, we'll talk about this later, but my assumption is that we'll talk about Saturday and Sunday for part one, and then Monday and Tuesday for part two. Like
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
So but there is this one really cool looking one that's about. It is about a musician. It's a platformer about a musician, and the trailer looked so freaking
Oh
like
wow.
animated beautifully. And I really wish I could remember the name of it, but we will definitely talk about
Oh.
it again. And I hope we see more about it. And I'll send you I'll probably just
I
put
need
the
to
trailer
yeah.
up for it. I'll put the
Yeah.
trailer up for it on the Twitter page at some
Yeah.
point. But like they
'Cause that
do
sounds
they do
interesting.
really well. They are a really great company for indie games.
Yeah.
There's always conversations about when you sell your stuff to Microsoft to put it on their system, is it are you selling your soul or something? But that's the usual indie conversation. But I really they do really well with that. But about a month ago, working with a charity that I should have remembered to look the name up.
Oh.
It was like Able Gamers something.
Yeah.
Again, I'll put the info up on the Twitter page. But they announced an exclusive Xbox controller for gamers with disabilities who can't use a regular controller, basically, who can't use the just basic controller. And what this thing looks like is it's about the size of, looks to be about the size, maybe a little bit bigger of your standard keyboard.
Okay.
And on top, you have these two, you have a couple of standard buttons like the D-pad and joystick and stuff, and these two very big, like, think of like a turnstile,
Yeah.
like big circle things that I don't know if those are buttons or just pads. But then running along the back of it is an input for every single button on an Xbox One controller, like a headphone jack looking input.
Wow.
For every single one. And the controller comes with a ridiculous number of adapters that can be plugged into any one of those so that you can customize this lap controller for whatever your needs are.
Wow.
So like if you only have, two fingers on one hand, you can map just two things to your left hand and the rest to your right hand. If you need to do something with like your shoulder, you can plug something into the back of this and then rest it on your shoulder and use like the side of your head and your shoulder to control this thing, so that if that's the only way you can move. It is this fantastic little thing, and it is authorized by Xbox. Like this charity worked with Microsoft. It is an official Xbox controller. These are like official things, like guaranteed to work with an Xbox system.
That's pretty
And
sweet.
what I would love is for E3 to take like 5 minutes to do a video about that.
Yeah.
Just 5 minutes to
Yeah.
do a video about that would be wonderful. I don't know if they
Yeah.
will.
It would
but,
be a huge missed opportunity.
Yeah. But definitely like if that is something that interests anyone listening out there, just look up the like Xbox disability controller. I'm not sure best, but there's YouTube videos direct from Microsoft that show it off, and a bunch of other people have looked at it. But it was made, like I said, in conjunction with this charity and with people with disabilities, so that they are made correctly. Like they're
Yeah.
not made right. So it's not like
Exactly.
it's not just like an ultimate cash grab. It's like $100 controller too. It's
Wow.
like for something that you think, when you look at the accessories and the size of this thing, you think it would cost way more.
Yeah.
And for
Yeah,
such a what
that's-
would be a very niche market, and it was only $100. Like
Wow.
it's fantastic.
Wow.
So yeah, that's what I.
pretty
so-
awesome. That's
And that's the type of stuff that like Microsoft really should lean on. Is like it's this is your lifestyle thing, not so much this is your ultimate gaming rig. Like we don't
Yeah,
have a
yeah,
ton
yeah.
of exclusives, but we make gaming accessible, and also like
for-
everybody knows what an Xbox is.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain every time someone older than 50 looks at a PlayStation, they go, "Hey, look, you got an Xbox," because or Nintendo. Like those are the two systems that everybody knows.
Yeah. Yep.
So yeah, so Microsoft, I mean, who knows? It is really up in the air, especially because no one expects them to announce a new 4K console. So who knows what
It'd
their
be
what their thing's
crazy
gonna
if
be.
they did.
It really is. It
It-
really would be.
like,
So that and that means that it's like the ultimate dark horse to just have the
yeah.
most ridiculous like level of craziness going for it. Um,
Jeez.
I have cautious high hopes that they're just going to surprise us with something.
I'm
Um,
still holding out for a Quantum Break sequel.
oh, speaking of Remedy, did you see the thing I
Ow.
posted on Twitter about the dog?
About the
That's what I
dog?
want. That's the other thing that should go on stage, by the way. So Remedy is the company that made Alan Wake and Quantum Break
Yes.
and
Yeah, I know.
all of other things. And they were
Yes.
testing a new motion capture thing. And so someone brought their dog into the office and they stuck the bubbles all over it. And we're like, we
Oh.
just need to see if we can map what a dog does.
Oh my
And so
god.
they stuck a bunch of motion control baubles all over this dog and just played with it for a little bit. Like that dog should be on stage for every minute of Microsoft's
Yes. Oh my god. I did
because it
not
just
see
looks so
that.
goofy. It's like whenever you see like Andy Serkis
Yeah.
and he's done all this stuff with all the things, only it's a dog, just a pit bull, just
Oh
smiling
my
away.
god. Aw. Jeez.
So later Sunday night we'll get Bethesda, and by I
Yes.
shouldn't say later. They learned their lesson. So Bethesda is interesting because I think 2 years ago was the first time they ever did their own E3 press conference.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Hmm.
because for many years they were the Elder Scrolls and
Yeah.
Fallout people, and that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But they are a strange company who does things like buy id Software, who made some of the first-person shooters, like we talked about last week, where the company that made Doom and Quake
Mhm.
and all these other great, like they bought them. They own them now. um, and they also bought a company called Arcane, the company that made Dishonored and Prey. Prey,
Huh.
by the way, if you haven't played that, or if our listeners haven't, give Prey a shot. That is
Oh,
a
I
good
need
game.
to. I own it. I just
Prey is,
haven't
Prey
played
is
it yet.
interesting because it like the marketing made it look like a horror game. It's not really a horror
It's not.
game.
Yeah, no.
It's much more like BioShock in space.
Mm.
It's like that's the best way to think about it. It's a
Yeah.
very good version of BioShock in space. I loved it. Um,
It looked very
so
cool.
so it's like really so that's like the weird stuff that Bethesda will do, and that was exactly what they did. Their first press conference is they were like, oh, by the way, we're bringing back Doom, the most classic game ever. That if we screw this up, will ruin our credibility
Mhm.
for all of gaming eternity. And they brought out Doom 2016, and it's one of the single best games they've
Yeah.
ever played.
Yep. Yeah.
And then they're like, "Oh, we bought Prey, a game that was like a cult classic on the original Xbox." And what we really did was we just made our own game and put Prey on the title. But we let the Dishonored people make a sci-fi game,
Mhm.
and it was great. It was fantastic.
Yep.
And then they'll probably announce that Skyrim's coming out on like 8 other systems
Yeah.
in some other form or fashion. So someone made a really great joke that Fallout 76 was going to be that you just sit down at a terminal and play Skyrim again. It's like-
Oh, that'd be
or
funny.
they'll really
It should
surprise
just
us
be
and
that.
announce the next Elder Scrolls game on top of this. But again, it's another thing where like we don't know what Bethesda's going to do because they tend to not announce things that aren't coming out the same
Mm.
year. So like their first conference, they announced Doom. Doom came out like within a year of E3. It came out before the next E3.
Yeah.
They also announced Fallout 4 that year. That came out that October. Last year they announced. They also announced Prey at that same time, and Prey came out in February last year. Last year they announced Wolfenstein 2, which came out at the end of that year. So like they're really good at being like, this is the stuff that's coming from us, which means that we have to have something new next year
Exactly.
because we are telling you everything that you're going to be able to play in the next year.
Yeah.
But so that's what I'm really excited for, is to see what they bring
new
to
is
the
gonna
table.
be coming.
We're going to see more Rage
Yeah.
2. We're going
Oh,
to see
yeah.
more Fallout 76.
Yep.
Those are always exciting. They also theme their stuff really interestingly. So last year it was Bethesda World, which looked a lot like
Oh yeah.
which a lot like Disney,
Yep.
and so they basically do a video a lot like Nintendo does, only they also have people standing on stage to talk, but they'll spend the first half of that press conference with a video that will be themed ridiculously, and will go through previews of most of their games that are upcoming, and then they'll spend the second half
Just
talking about what
talking
those
about
games
them.
are,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
And you'll see, let's see, the two guys you're definitely going to see are Pete Hines and Todd Howard. God, the
Okay.
fact that I know their names is ridiculous. Todd Howard is the guy. Todd Howard is the guy behind most of Fallout and Elder Scrolls. Like he's
Okay.
like one of the the game director there. Pete Hines is like the marketing director or the president of Bethesda or something.
Mhm.
So they always come out on stage, but very very silly, goofy guys that definitely clearly like what they're doing. That's the thing I like
That's
about the
good.
smaller. That's what I like about the smaller press conferences like that, like Bethesda and Ubisoft and even Devolver with their ridiculous stuff. Like they're being made by the people who are not making your consoles. Like these are the people who want to make the games for you.
Yeah.
Like these are the that know like really love what they're doing, and they will they'll do ridiculous things like put on 20-hour live streams of nothing because they know that you'll watch, and also they know that you'll laugh at it the same way they're laughing at it behind the camera.
Exactly.
Like,
Exactly. They're just there to have fun and
uh,
make fun for people.
oh yeah, oh definitely. Uh, let's see here. Mondays starts off weird with Square Enix because I don't know what anything Square Enix makes besides Final Fantasy and Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, me either.
If they don't spend, oh my God. Okay, sorry, I'm reading the article right now. They announced Near. They're the ones that published Near
Oh,
Automata.
yes, that is true.
So did you ever play that?
No, it came out, but it came out around the same time of Horizon Zero Dawn, and
Yes.
Zelda,
Yes, it
Breath
did.
of the Wild. So they were always a lot. I wanted to because of how much I loved Horizon Zero Dawn, and like I was able to talk about it with people, and they were like, "Oh, it's so good! Like it's in the same tier and all that." So I haven't been able to get my
It's
hands on it. So
it is interesting because it is a game that has no right being as good as it is. So first off, it is a very it's a Japanese game, Japanese RPG. Guy who really put the whole thing together. His name is Yoko Taro. No one has ever seen his face, I don't think, because whenever he does public appearances, he's wearing this giant mask that is from this Nier franchise that he created.
yeah,
This giant globe smiley face thing that he puts over his head, and that
the little
game
robot
starts
face,
off.
the little robot.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
yeah, he wears that everywhere. Like I don't
yes,
think anyone has ever seen his face,
yeah.
or if they have, they're not allowed to talk about it. And
They have no mouths.
yeah, and he makes and like so Nier itself is a franchise, which I think
Mhm.
a lot of people don't realize. So the first two came out on PS2.
Yeah.
I don't think a Nier game came out on PS3, and so then PS4 is this thing. And Nier Automata is a sequel to to one of the different endings of the last Nier game.
Yeah.
So like many JRPGs, there's 1,000 endings to these games, and this is a sequel to one of them that you might never see.
Yeah.
Just because it takes place in a universe that they created by splitting a timeline, by doing some ridiculous quantum thing. The other thing is that like for the first probably half of the time that you're playing this game, it is a very basic rote game. It is just like it's your this very anime looking woman running around this dead world and beating up a bunch of robots and
Mhm.
doing side quests and all this other stuff. And when that run ends, very mild spoiler alert, because the only reason I knew to do this was that someone else told me. So I'm just gonna put this out in the world. You just start a new game. There's no new game plus. There's no there's nothing that really tells you. The only thing that really tells you, hey, if you play the game again, something will change, is a literal message at the end of the credits of the first run that say, start a new game. We promise things will be different.
Huh.
That's like all it says. And it doesn't say New Game Plus, and it doesn't say that you're overwriting a save file or all this other stuff. It just says, just start a new game. And you start a new game, and immediately they're showing you a cutscene that was not part of the original thing, and you're
Oh,
playing a
wow.
different character, and you're playing a different character. And
That's
it's like,
pretty
wait,
sweet.
hold on. And it ends up that there's like 4 or 5 different endings, like playthroughs that you have to do because every time it's changing a little bit to get all of the endings,
Yeah.
and they're like playing with this whole concept of like replay of like video games lets you replay these worlds from different perspectives, and they play on like the ideas of purpose and
Wow.
love
Huh.
and partnership, and oh, it's so,
Oh,
it gets
jeez.
so deep like the more and more you go, and it starts out so basic that you would never guess that happened unless someone else was like, just please just stick with it, I
Wow.
promise.
Wow.
And
Now I
it's
need
like,
to play it.
and so like if Square Enix at their press conference announces something else kind of goofy and out there like that, that's what I'll be watching. I don't
Yeah.
care about Kingdom Hearts 3. I haven't played I basically played Kingdom Hearts 1 kind of. I don't think I ever finished it.
I've
Never played Kingdom Hearts 2.
you
Never played any of the thousand
do
spin-offs to
you
that
want
game.
to know what my experience, this small tangent, because it needs to be shared since we're talking about it. But one of my friends he loves Kingdom Hearts. It's one of his favorite game series of all time. He brought it with him to school, and I was like, I want to try playing it, little, I'm like, it seems easy enough, blah blah blah.
Oh, you mean Final Fantasy but with Disney characters? I love that concept.
Yeah.
Woo!
So
Yeah.
so I'm going through and I start the game, and so you've played the opening, right, of the first
Yeah,
game, right,
yeah.
where
I
you're
mean, I
on
played
where
through.
you're on the island, and
Yeah,
you
I
know.
can't remember where I stopped. I just remember I've played
Okay.
Kingdom Hearts and never finished it. That's
so,
all I remember.
so I've played through it twice. The same part twice. You play through the tutorial. It's cool. You pick your power, whatever. Then you're on the island with all the other kids, and there is a part where you have to race. There's a part where you're racing. You're like one of your friends.
Okay, yeah, that sounds familiar.
Riku is his name, I believe,
Hmm.
and you're racing him to name a boat because we're children, and that is how we decide
And
things.
because we're 15 years too early for Bodie McBoatface.
Exactly. So it's this race that I could not do. And I'm like, this game is stupid because I can't beat this. My friend was like, you don't have to beat it. Like, you just don't get to name the boat what you wanted to name it. And I'm like, no, I need to beat him. I need to know that I can beat him. And then I'm trying to do it. And I'm like, I'm going to get to change the boat's name, right? And this is like six tries of trying to beat him. My friend's like, no, you don't get to rename the boat. And I'm like, why? Never mind. I need to do it now. I need to prove it to myself. I don't care about the boat anymore. I just need. It took me 14, maybe 15 times to beat this.
And of course,
There's a
and of
video
course
of
the game
me.
is like, and of course it's you have to beat it. It's not like the game is like, well, if you win or lose, you just get a different cutscene no matter what, and
Oh
then the game
no.
moves on. No, you have to win this
No, no, no.
race.
No, you don't.
Oh, really?
You can continue the game, Zach. That is what I'm trying to get at. Is that you don't have to beat him
Oh
in order to
man.
continue the game. You can just continue. At
Did
least
you
from
did you
my
know that?
from,
Or were you just like so adamant that you had to keep going?
I had to beat him. It was like it was just like this need and desire that I am. Like, I need to be. I know I can do it. I know I can do it. I know how I have to do it. I know that I have to take the shortcut because cheating exists, and I need to get this done. I could be wrong. You might have. I haven't played it in a while. I've never played it again because of how angry I got at this stupid race. But you
Uh,
you I'm pretty sure you can just continue. Like, you lose, you don't get to name the boat, and you continue on. I'm pretty sure that's how normal people play it. They just they take the loss and they move on with their
I would
lives.
in fact
But not
imagine that
me.
many people probably assume you're supposed to lose that race and
Yeah.
just fun.
So
Oh
maybe I have to play it
God.
again, or I'll have to ask my friend if Joe, if you're listening, you might have to steer me right on this or steer me wrong. I don't know what that's saying. Whatever. Anyways, so yeah,
Ugh.
that's
Or
my experience with
or
Kingdom
just watch
Hearts.
someone play it online so you don't have to play it again. Or better yet, find the video of the guy who ground to level 100 on that island
Oh
before he
jeez.
moved on,
Oh my
which might be
god.
my favorite story.
That island is
Some
so
Twitch
frustrating.
some Twitch
Everything
streamers spent like a month and a half grinding out every night for like hours a day, every day for like a month and a half, grinding to level 100
Oh
before
my
he continued with
god.
the game just to
Look,
see what would happen.
it that I just remember getting so angry at the gameplay of that island. I'm like, I understand it's a tutorial. I understand it, but this is stupid.
This is
What?
exactly why people
This
left Twilight Princess.
this is making
Because
me upset. And here's the thing: I like I don't hate Kingdom Hearts. I do like the world, that the stuff that I've been told of it. I like and I find interesting. I cannot get through those games though.
there's
I
just,
can't
the
play
rest
it.
of it to get through before you get to
I
the stuff you like.
like I said, my friend he tells me everything about it. Like I know the story, kind of. Like I know it pretty much, but it's like I can't get myself to sit down and just play it because of that dumb race. It's like I just can't get past it. And then you have to fight
Uh,
a kid whose weapon is a jump rope, and it's like, what is this? What am I doing?
it's it's life. That's what life is in anime world. I don't know what to tell you. Uh,
That being said, I mean, Kingdom
let's
Hearts,
see.
it's kind of cool.
Yeah. At the same time, like
If I get
it's
to,
always fun to see. Like you said, it's fun to watch like happen. Like I'm glad Kingdom Hearts exists for the people that
yes,
enjoy it. I don't
yeah,
think I'm
so
ever
am
going to
I.
be part of that world,
Yeah.
but like it is
Oh, I
it is
mean,
an amazing thing. Like just watching the different worlds and how they changed. Have you seen the Monsters Inc. world?
I haven't no,
Kingdom
because like
Hearts 3.
I kind of want to like
Oh,
hold off on
Goofy,
seeing
Goofy
anything.
looks so gross. I
Oh,
love
I
it.
bet. Well,
Like, it just
the
looks so bad.
the coolest thing that I know about Kingdom Hearts 3 is the roller coaster fight. And it's like that I want to see and might want to play through because that is so cool to me that you're just going to be flying around on the roller coaster. It's probably like Splash Mountain
Right. Yeah,
or Space
absolutely.
Mountain or something. But like that's so cool to me. But to what you're saying is like you're happy that it exists because the people. Let me tell you, I like for my friend's birthday, I got him like the Keyblade set. It was a Keyblade set, and when he opened it, his eyes just lit up. Like that felt good. That something like was able to make him that happy, you know. And it's like,
Yeah,
so I'm happy it
absolutely.
exists. So yeah, but
Yeah.
I just can't play
Let's see. Just scrolling through this really quick. Square Enix is also the company that is publishing the Tomb Raider games now. So we're going to
Yep,
see more of Shadow of the Tomb Raider is the new one.
exactly.
So that will come out. So we'll see a preview of that. That'll be great. There's nothing. I mean, Final Fantasy stuff all up in the air. They've been trying to remake Final Fantasy VII forever now. So we might see something from that. Um, they're either going to announce Final Fantasy 16 or they're going to announce another expansion to Final Fantasy 15, or they'll do both.
Do
I
it
think
all.
last year their big Final Fantasy 15 announcement was the VR fishing game they
Yep.
put out where
Yeah.
you could fish with your bros. Uh, so that's Square Enix, company that's been in the game a long time. Don't play much of their games, or I do and don't realize I'm playing their games,
Yeah.
like Tomb Raider near. Uh, so that's at, let's see, 10 a.m. So 11 my time,
It
1 your
is
time.
one my time. Yes.
Yeah. So then after that, at
You don't have to
uh,
do the math, you know, right? It's written there.
but on my not on the E3, not on the Kotaku thing I'm looking
Yes,
at.
there
It just
is.
says it just says 10 a.m. Pacific time. It
No,
doesn't say anything else on mine.
if you look at there is a huge like bus schedule looking thing.
Oh, at the top.
That
Okay, that one. Yes. I'm
yeah.
scrolling down to read their little blurb, so that's
Oh,
not on the
okay.
screen anymore.
Oh, I have that
God,
on my
don't
screen.
put me on blast, here,
I'm
lady.
so
Jesus.
sorry.
No, this is
Why
great.
do you
So
even have to
very
do
quick tip.
math?
This episode's already gonna be long. So quick tangent. I was out to dinner with some friends last night, and we were talking about time because she had to drive her family back to Tucson for a thing.
Yep.
And the thing with Arizona does not do daylight savings time, which means
Okay.
that half
Yes.
the year I'm on the same time zone and the same time as Arizona. Half the year I am not because they're on California time instead.
Yes.
And so we were trying to figure that out. And then we were looking up, for some reason, Costa Rica came up. And we're
Oh.
like, yeah, sure, let's look up the Costa Rica time. And we got really confused because Costa Rica's time was the same as our time. And we're like, that doesn't make any sense. They're in the central time zone. What's going on? And we realized that same thing. Costa Rica doesn't do daylight savings
Daylight
either, which means
savings.
that we're in the half of the year where Costa Rica's on our time. So like for apparently
That's
for two
great.
days, I haven't known how time works,
Oh,
really.
I just didn't want you to have to do any unnecessary math.
uh, yeah, the unnecessary math of
But
adding three to things. Like,
yeah, yeah.
uh,
Um,
okay, so Monday will also bring us Ubisoft.
yes,
Ubisoft, who makes the Assassin's Creed games and Mario and Rabbids, which
yes.
is fantastic. And oh, the Watch Dogs series
Yep.
is interesting.
Hmm.
It's Far Cry, but they just put out Far Cry 5, so I don't expect anything from that.
They're
Although we're gonna see some
doing.
DLC.
They're
But
doing.
Ubisoft is huge. Ubisoft is one of the biggest publishers out
Well,
there,
yeah.
and it's really funny because their games are like so hit and miss for so many
Mhm.
people.
Mhm.
They're so interestingly divisive. I
Yeah.
love them. For
They're.
a couple of years, they had Aisha Tyler as their like host
Oh,
for a
okay.
really long time. I don't think they did last year, but for 2 or 3 years there, like Aisha Tyler was the host of the Ubisoft's conference, which is really strange.
Yeah.
But
Jeez.
she obviously knew what she was talking about though. Like she was like very clearly like someone who likes their games and talking about it. So they're
Yeah.
like, we're capitalizing on this right here.
They're doing Skull and Bones, right?
They are,
Okay,
which
good.
looks very
I am
interesting.
so excited.
Yeah. So Skull and Bones is a ship battle simulator, basically. Anybody who's ever played Assassin's Creed
Black
4,
Black
Black
Flag.
Flag,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yep.
or Rogue, or there's a little bit of it in Assassin's Creed 3, but I don't want to ever think about Assassin's Creed 3 again. I'm going to tell
Um.
you about. I own every one of those games. One of these days, I'll go talk about my love-hate relationship with the
Oh,
Assassin's
I would
Creed game.
love it. I would love
But
to hear that
uh,
because all I can
but yeah,
talk about is Black Flag.
Skull and Bones is just like if you took the ship battle
Hmm.
like part of Black Flag and just made that a game.
Which is honestly like that's what's making me excited because, like I said, I again the idea of Assassin's Creed was always something that I was like, this is cool. Like this sounds like it is up my alley. And then I found out that there was the pirate one, which I love pirates, and I'm like, I need to play this. So I played it. I probably played like the first like 50 minutes, like the first hour, maybe. I don't even know, but
On the island where you have to get off. Hey,
yeah.
spoiler alert, in video games you have to get off a lot of islands, people.
It's gonna happen. No, I don't know how far I got into it, but anyways, what I found, what really got me into that game was the ship mechanics, because it just felt like I was captaining a ship, and it was so smooth, and the battles were so good. Like I'm so excited.
Did you get far enough to get any of the sea shanties
I got
while you were
I got some of them.
that is
I did
probably
get some of them.
the best part of the whole ship
Yeah.
mechanic in that
Mhm.
is that you go throughout that game and you collect sea shanties, and so as you're riding around in the boat,
Yeah.
your crew just
Sings,
sings.
and you can
And
change
it's
through them.
yes, and I think the best part about that is I don't know if it was 4 or if it was Rogue because I found it in Rogue, which was this weird spin-off to 4 that is like a weird prequel to 4, which
Is it
I
really?
really liked.
Huh.
Yeah, so Rogue is this like weird prequel to 4 where there's this Templar. Anybody who's never played the Assassin's Creed games before, all you need to know is that the Templars, the conspiracy theory Templars, are in a constant like immortal battle with the
Yep.
assassins over whether or not people should be free to do whatever the hell they want and that will make them happy, or they should be controlled so for their own good.
Mhm.
Like that's the basic
That's the
premise of
fight.
all of Assassin's Creed.
Yeah.
So in Rogue, it is an
Just go see
assassin
the
who
movie.
has yeah eh
Another conversation for another time. Continue.
oh God. Assassin. Here's the good thing about the movie. The
I loved
movie
the
gave them an
movie.
extra year to the movie gave them an extra year to work on Assassin's Creed Origins, which has been largely loved as like one of the
Yeah.
best of the series, and they're already going to fail that by putting out another one next year.
Yep.
Already. But the thing with Rogue was that it's an ex assassin who turned to the Templars. So it's the only game, one of the only games where you
Oh
get to
yeah.
play as a Templar, and it's like it got this really interesting story about why he left and all of that. It's one of the best actual stories of the game series. Um, but they had a sea shanty, and I don't know if Sasha, my cousin, listens to this, but I'm gonna make sure on Facebook that she knows I'm talking about this. Is a song called Donkey Riding.
Oh God.
I can't. I can barely remember how it goes now. What I can tell you is that I annoyed the hell out of Sasha and Sijin with that song when we were younger.
Oh my
Sijin and I would then annoy Sasha with it sometimes, but I definitely used it on both of them as a weapon. Uh,
god. I need to
and I would just
link,
remember playing
please.
this. We're gonna find a link to it, but I just remember playing playing Rogue, and we're just going around on the boat. And I'm like, wait, I know this song. And sure enough, I went, oh my God, that might be the best thing I have ever found in a video game. This is fantastic.
That's great. I love it. That's so good.
uh,
Wow.
yeah. So,
You know what is
so yeah,
another?
the other one the other big one that everyone's going to be looking to, like I said, there's a new Assassin's Creed. It's
Yes.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey. They confirmed,
Mhm.
so they're going to ancient Rome and all of that. That'll be
Which I
interesting.
am excited.
Um, but the other big one is Beyond Good and Evil 2. Have you ever played Beyond Good and
Oh,
Evil?
no, but I saw like a quick article about that, like just on the side somewhere, and I was like, there's like a monkey or something, right? That's
Yeah.
evil, and he throws,
Not
yeah, or
even
some.
not
He's
even
not
not
evil,
even
but he's like
evil. He's
crazy, right?
yeah. So what's
And there's like,
interesting
is
is
there a
that
rhino? I
there
remember a
was there was
rhino.
definitely a rhino. So what's interesting, so Beyond Good and Evil came out, God, 20 years ago now on I think either original Xbox or PS2 or something. And are we at the point where we can say 20 years ago for PS2? I just had a moment. Ow.
It's okay.
Um,
It's okay.
um, 15 years ago. There, that makes me feel less old. Uh, it's my birthday tomorrow, by the way. So this is gonna be
Is
this is
it?
like yeah.
Oh my god!
I'm
Oh
like
wait, yes,
29,
you mentioned
29
that.
tomorrow. 29 tomorrow, and I just feel old. Oh.
Yay! Happy
Um,
birthday to you.
happy birthday. We're talking about video games for an
Happy
hour and almost an
birthday
hour and a half now.
to
Uh,
you.
so Beyond Good and Evil was this really interesting adventure game that came out, which was you play it as a woman named Jade, who's like an investigative journalist
Yeah.
who's uncovering this huge conspiracy about there's these like humanoid or like sentient animals in the world. So like I think she calls him her uncle, but is this like pig dude
Oh
that
yes.
is
Yeah.
like in all of this. And so you're uncovering something that they're doing with the animals, with like the animal human hybrid things through all of that. It's got this huge cult following. I really need to play it again. I
I
like
want.
started to play it and never finished it, but it's this huge whole cult game.
Yeah.
And for years, people were expecting there to be a sequel. For like for years they expected it to be on like PS2, PS3, never happened. And then there was an E3 or some other conference where they put up a very vague trailer which never even said the name of the game,
Yeah.
but had a pig man standing at a car, like very clearly, like this was Beyond Good and Evil 2. Then they never talked about it again for like 10 years.
That is what I
And
think I saw. Maybe.
yeah,
I don't know. I saw it and I was like, this looks super cool. What is this? And then
nothing.
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so last year at E3, they to cap off the Ubisoft conference, they showed a preview of what they called and is confirmed as Beyond Good and Evil 2, which had the monkey talking to I think it was a rhino or a pigman or something. We're trying to like sell something stolen.
Yes.
Yeah, to guys. So very much like if like Snatch and Quentin Tarantino had animals. Like that's very much what it read like. In this huge cinematic trailer where the monkey like steals a thing, runs off with this woman, and they are like flying through this city, and they go into this underground, and it's all very cool. But none of it, at the same time, none of it mentions any of the characters from the first game. There might be like a quick reference at the end of it.
Yeah.
But so what it sounds like, and what Ubisoft has kind of set off and on for the last year, is that this will actually be kind of a prequel that's like taking place like right before the events of Beyond Good and Evil. But they're also doing this weird and what sounds like terrifying thing where they're trying to put together this like brand new game engine, and they're going to make this like this procedurally generated universe of things where people are going to play through different quests and stuff in the style of Beyond Good and Evil, and
Oh.
with the characters like Beyond Good and Evil, but very much detached from the story of the original Beyond Good and Evil. And so people are like, we need more information now because we don't know how to feel about this.
Yeah.
Yeah. First off, just the idea of procedurally generated things, like if people out there don't know what that means, it means the game is literally creating it as it goes through from a set, like obviously a set piece of tools and stuff to create it, but is essentially randomly creating worlds for you.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And that has been an up and down thing over the last couple of years. Like No Man's Sky is the biggest kind of criminal in that situation, where they were like, we're going to create a universe of billions of planets, all procedurally generated. And then when the game finally came out, they all looked the same because they were all pulling from the same subsets. And so like they really winged it on that one. And so like anytime someone says, "Oh, we're going to create this huge procedurally generated universe," it's like, I don't believe you. Until you show it to me, I refuse to get excited.
That's great.
Yeah. So it's both like I mean, the writing could hold it up. The whole thing could work out perfectly, but it's just like Ubisoft is so good at like trying something really weird,
Mm.
being really bad at it the first time, and then the second time being really good. Assassin's Creed is just like that. The original Assassin's Creed game, kind of boring. I like it fine enough. I think the story is okay, but but very largely everybody's like, it's an okay game. But then Assassin's Creed 2 comes out, and Ezio is so freaking popular, and the game is so well made that
That's
they
very
made
true.
their own trilogy out of him.
Yeah.
Like it's like that. They're really good at being like, we put this game out there, and then we listened to what people complained about, and we fixed it, and so the next one is really good. Watch Dogs, same way. First, Watch Dogs is very much hit or miss for people because they built it up for years that it was going to be this like hugely well-made thing. It kind of wasn't as good as it looked in the previews.
Yeah.
The story was kind of okay, but then Watch Dogs 2 comes out, and it's this like bright, colorful, goofy, kind of like if you mixed Agents of Mayhem
Yep.
or Saints Row
Mm-hmm.
into the Watch Dogs universe,
Yeah.
and it became like a phenomenally better game
And
for
you
it.
can have a dance party with a person dressed as a lobster.
Exactly. So what's worrisome with this is that like Beyond Good and Evil 2 kind of feels like they wanted to make a different game and they just put the franchise name on it for the nostalgia factor.
Hmm.
And it feels like one of those things where like they're gonna just completely whiff this one, and then Beyond Good and Evil 3 will be fantastic or something. Because they'll figure out whatever issues they need to figure out after they launch this
Yeah,
one.
exactly.
And that's the thing that worries me
Jeez.
about it, because they have been stringing people along for so long on this Beyond Good and Evil 2 kick that I'm afraid that when they eventually do that and it's like, oh, okay, 2 kind of stinks and then 3 is fantastic, no one will play 3 because they're
Exactly.
so mad about 2.
Yep. They're just gonna be like, yeah, and I'm done.
Ugh. But I really want them to announce something as ridiculous as Mario and Rabbids again,
Yeah.
though. God, I hope they announce something ridiculous like that again, because that was so beautifully weird. That is such a weird game.
I did not play it.
Oh my God. It's just like if you just it was like what if Mario had toilet humor? That's
Jesus.
literally, and I don't mean just toilet humor. I mean literally
Late
there is a toilet joke.
Well, yeah,
Like
it's the rabbit.
because it's the
Like,
rabbits.
I remember playing Rabbids on Connect, I think, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, man, this is a great show. And then it had a
And
great
and before that it
fun-
was Wii. They were the
Yeah,
big Wii
yep.
like motion control mini game.
And then there was a TV show,
It's
and
of
that
course.
was weird.
Of course it was, because they're not characters.
No,
But
they're basically like toilet humor minions.
yeah, they're proto minions.
They're
They're the original minions. And then you put them in the Mario world and you let them wear costumes, and oh my
Yep.
God, Rabbid Peach might be one of the greatest video game characters ever created. She's fantastic.
Oh my God.
I'm just waltzing into this situation. I'm gonna get a selfie about myself, and I don't really actually care about what's going on. And holy crap, this thing's going to kill me.
Oh my God.
Oh, she's so good.
That's great.
But the other reason, and I think the reason that works so well, and the reason that I really like that, is during the press conference, they had the Ubisoft game director who had been basically gifted the Mario franchise from Nintendo in a way that almost like never happens. Has not happened probably since Mario RPG in Square Enix, or I think it was Squaresoft at the time. That's
Yeah.
how old that is.
Yeah.
Like Mario RPG, also fantastic, came out for Super Nintendo, and I don't think Nintendo has licensed out their characters in the same way since. And you get Ubisoft in, and they had the creator in the audience, and they cut to him while Shigeru Miyamoto, who's the head, like creator of Mario and head of Nintendo's, of most of their development, on stage talking about how great and excited they are for this game. They have the Ubisoft director up there talking about how great it is. They love this game, and they cut to the game director, and he is bawling his eyes out.
Oh.
So like in the most like in the happiest way. Like there's just this guy just sitting in the audience just crying, happier than I have ever seen a human being
Wow.
be happy. And I was like, that there you go. That's why I love this.
Yeah.
That's why I love this stupidity that we go through every year. That's why I love these games, is because like this guy clearly has probably had this idea 20 years ago
Yeah.
when we came out, and they were like, what if we put Mario and Rabbids together, and somehow worked his way up through Ubisoft to the point where Nintendo went, yeah, sure, do it.
Let's
Yeah,
let's
give it
do
a shot.
this.
We never do this, but go
That's
ahead and you
great.
try it.
Oh,
And he was just so
that's great.
happy.
Yeah. See, man, video games. They're so happy.
uh,
They're so good.
so then we get to Monday
PC,
night.
PC gaming.
Oh,
Who
I don't
cares?
even have
I
that on
don't even.
this.
I
I don't
don't
even know
even
that's on
care.
here.
Oh
Here's the
yeah,
thing about
that's
here's
on the bus. That's on the bus schedule.
I'm
Let's
thinking
just
about
skip it.
yeah.
Go
Yeah,
on to
everybody,
Sony.
here's what PC Gamer is. It's 4 hours of the most boring press conference you're ever gonna watch.
Yep.
The end.
Yep.
Sony.
Moving on to Sony and Spider-Man. I just want
Sony.
Spider-Man.
We're gonna
That's
get
it.
Spider-Man. We're gonna get Spider-Man action this time around. So supposedly, going by this blurb that's in this article, there's not going to be a ton of stuff that we haven't seen before. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
they will surprise us with something. They're Sony, but
Horizon Zero Dawn 2.
I mean, or do you think it's? See, I would rather they wait another year
Oh, I
on that.
would. Yeah, no, totally. But like,
I want Guerrilla
just an
Games to just
announcement would be
that.
good. An
Yeah,
announcement would be good.
that would be cool. Um, but yeah, it looks like the big things they're gonna be focusing on, at least according to what Kotaku thinks anyway. Spider-Man, which
Yes.
I'm all for a new Spider-Man game that is completely divorced from
I'm
both
s-
the MCU and the any movies, anything
Yeah.
like that.
I'm so excited.
Just let Marvel Comics make a Spider-Man movie,
Mhm.
because they're talk about a franchise that goes up and down. The history of Spider-Man games is ridiculously hit or miss. Like some of them are really good and some of them are just the worst.
So the only one I've played like finished is Shattered Dimensions, and my God, do I love that game. Oh
Is
my.
that the one?
It's
Is
so
that the one
good.
where you get like Noir Spider-Man or whatever, steampunk
Noir.
Spider-Man?
Yeah.
there?
So yeah, it's Spider-Man. It's Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man Noir, Ultimate Spider-Man, and Spider-Man 2099.
That's right.
And Ultimate Spider-Man is quote unquote the black suit Spider-Man. So
Right.
but it's Ultimate Spider-Man. But it is so good, so good. I love it. I love Spider-Man. I've loved Spider-Man ever since I was a kid, and being able to play as four of the coolest ones, except. I mean, if Ben Riley was in it, that would be cool, but I don't even know if Ben Riley was a thing at that point when Shattered Dimensions came out. He could have been, but I don't know when he was introduced or anything like that. But yeah, I loved it.
Well, the big thing with this one coming out looks like that Miles Morales is going to have some sort
Yep.
of part in it.
Oh
And
yeah.
like right now, my running theory right now is that every preview we've seen is the first hour of that game
Oh,
as
yeah.
tutorial, and that
Definitely.
you're going to play the bulk of that game as Miles Morales. Like
I
that's
hope
what I'm
so.
expecting.
I hope so.
And
so
I
bad.
love that idea, because that's it's going to come out around the same time as Sony animated
Mhm.
Miles Morales, Spider-Man universe movie,
Spider-Verse.
Spider-Verse
Yeah,
movie.
so I almost watched a trailer for the new Spider-Man game, and there was Miles Morales came in, and I'm like, nope, I am done watching this because I just need to go into
Yeah,
this
I don't know.
knowing
I don't know if
nothing.
any new trailers since last year have come out,
No,
but
it
if it's anything
hasn't.
like if it's anything like the E3
Like-
trailer, it's literally that is the last like 5 seconds of that trailer.
Yeah,
By
but-
the way, Miles Morales saw all of this happen.
Yeah.
It's like
It's like it's like Peter walks into he's like and he introduces Miles to Aunt May, I believe is what happens. But it's just I'm like, oh my God. And I have been staying away from the Spider-Verse trailers cuz I already
Yeah.
know some of this what spiders are Spider-Man. That's all I care about.
We're also going to probably get more of Death Stranding, which I'm excited because like
Yeah.
every
Yep.
time a new trailer for that comes out, I'm more confused
That
about
is
what that game is going to
that's
be.
definitely gonna happen. Yeah.
I have never seen a game that has confused me with more trailers. Usually it's like, oh my God, I've seen so many trailers, I know the entirety of this game now. And instead, Death Stranding is like, what if oh, what's his name? Oh God,
You got
I'm doing
this.
it again.
You got
Do
this.
I?
I believe in
From
you.
Walking Dead and
Norman Reedus, just move
thank
on.
you,
Just move on.
Jesus. Oh God, I don't know why I like blanked on Norman. Like as soon as I had Norman, I was like Norman Reedus. There we go. It was like it's like all I know about this game is that Norman Reedus has a baby attached to him by some sort of fake umbilical cord.
It's the
Mads
oil
Mikkelsen
baby.
Mads Mikkelsen cries oil. Guillermo del Toro, for some reason, is also running around in the sewers. Like, I don't know what it. Sometimes people grow old and die in like 5 seconds. What is going on with this game?
No idea. All I know is that there are Easter eggs of it in Horizon Zero Dawn.
Are there really?
Yeah, it was another one of those GameStop TV things. Yay.
Interesting.
Anyways, yeah, there was like a special about Easter eggs in different games.
Right.
And one of them was in a specific area. I haven't been able to find it yet. In a specific area you can find the necklace that shows up, like the dog tags that show up in
Right.
some of the trailers, and then the baby doll. And
I bet you
if you
it's
take them, you can go and sell them to a specific merchant, and I think you get like something that has to do with Death Stranding. Like you can't use it, but it's just like a nice
right.
little Easter egg. There's another Easter egg in some game that I don't remember, but if you hit enough of bottles off the thing, the up house appears. It's like it might be in. It's not in Battlefield. I don't know. It's a shooting. It's another like first person shooter. But yeah,
Right.
if you like shoot bottles off a post, the up house appears in the distance.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so Death Stranding, this weird game is being made by Kojima, Hideo Kojima, who
Yep.
made all of the Metal Gear Solid games.
Yeah.
And Konami like dropped him for some reason right before Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, so they left him out of the credits despite the fact that he definitely made most of that game. And
Oh jeez.
then yeah, it was a
Wow.
big thing. So he left and made his own company and was like, "Screw you. I'm going to make my own weird game with
With
hookers and
oil
blackjack."
babies.
Yeah, with oil babies and Mads Mikkelsen. And it's just like he clearly is like I've got them, and then Sony was like, we'll help you publish this thing because who wouldn't? And so he's got like all the money in the world to do whatever weird crap he wants to do. And the best one is to follow Hideo Kojima on Twitter and just watch all of his bro pictures come up of him and Mads Mikkelsen because I
Oh
think
my
he
god.
secretly just wanted to meet Mads Mikkelsen. And so like I don't think Mickelson even knows what he did for that game.
Oh my
I don't think
god.
he understands what recordings he did. I don't think he understands what part he plays. I think he was just like, I don't know, I showed up and this weird dude like showed me around Japan for 3 months while we worked and it was a great time. Like
Yep.
Norman Reedus comes out to do like the Game Awards last year, and he talked in the vaguest terms because I don't think he understands what was going on with that game, and he's been with that even longer.
Yeah.
So before this came out, and before Metal Gear Solid 5 came out, they Kojima and Guillermo del Toro and Norman Reedus were working on a Silent Hill game together.
Yeah.
Like they were supposed to put that out,
Mhm.
and that got
It got
canceled, and then
canceled.
Kojima got fired, and so they were like, "Fine, I'll go make my own weird horror-esque sci-fi game with the same people. Screw you."
Yeah.
So I think that Guillermo del Toro and Norman Reedus are just like along for the ride because they're like, we've been in it for this long. There's no way we're
Why
out now.
not? Why
But
not?
like they show up to things and they're just like, this is a game. This is a game in which
Enjoy.
you play a character where things will happen to you in a story-like fashion.
Oh my god. I think I found this week's description.
And then finally
Oh
on
my
Tuesday we're gonna get
god.
Nintendo's video, Nintendo's Direct,
Which is
where they don't
basically
even So they
basically
don't
gonna
show
be
up
Pokemon.
to, they haven't and don't show up to E3 anymore. Well, they do, but they do it in a different way. They don't do a conference anymore. They put out a video on Tuesday morning, and then what they have for the whole week at the conference is what's called the Nintendo Treehouse, which means that they block off a giant space for themselves and just do whatever the hell they want.
Hmm.
And it makes them one of the best people to go hang out with because it's like you get uh, oh my God, I've completely forgot Shigeru Miyamoto and a bunch of the other creators. I was like, I just forgot the name of the Mario man. I just said like 10 minutes ago.
Mario man.
But what they're gonna do is the direct will show off pretty much again everything that will come out in the next year or so. Some stuff that will come out later, but for the most part, they're only going to announce stuff that will be out for the year. Some of that stuff has leaked, may or may not be true. We're definitely going to get more Pokemon stuff
Oh yeah.
and more answers on what Let's Go is. I think they just announced a Star Fox racing game, so we're
Yeah.
going to get some of that.
We're probably gonna get some. Maybe we might get something about the RPG Pokemon for next year.
Yeah,
Like some throwaway thing that they're like, we're gonna forget about in 2 months. Like,
either that or they're going to announce the names and nothing else and let
yeah,
us for
exactly.
a year try and decide what those names
Theorize.
mean. Um,
I can't wait
they'll
for
definitely
the
be.
videos.
There's definitely going to be like probably the bulk of it is going to be Smash Brothers. The bulk of it is
Oh
going to be
yeah.
Smash. They're going to announce They're going to announce people we already know who are coming back.
Mhm.
They'll announce probably all of those, and then they'll announce like a handful of like new characters.
Mhm.
And then throughout the year until Smash comes out, they will continue to announce new characters. Like that's usually their
That's
MO there.
basically gonna be
So
it.
that's kind of what to expect from that. Plus all of their indie stuff to come out.
Yep.
The biggest one I'm waiting for is a game called Kentucky Route Zero, which came out on PC years ago, and like it's an episodic game, adventure game
Mm.
that has come out in different bits and pieces over the years, but the last part of it has never come out. The last part has never come out. And so they announced like a year ago that they were going to put out the full version, including the final chapter, on Switch and also to PC to finish it off, but on Switch on the Kentucky Route Zero TV edition. And what Kentucky Route Zero is you are a delivery man driving through Kentucky to do your final delivery for something. He kind of goes through the game and will explain more and more why it's your final delivery. But it's very Twin Peaks-ish, where like you stop at a gas station and ask for directions, and the guy's like, "Well, you got to take Route Zero. That'll be the easiest." But that's not on the map. What'll happen? And of course, that means that you're going to get into weird crap for a bunch of parts. But the better part, the best part about it is that in between each official chapter, they put out what they called interludes. And so the first interlude was you are setting up an art exhibit in a museum, completely separate from any of the story you're doing. You're just playing a completely different character, given the task of set this thing up and check out the exhibits and stuff.
Oh wow.
And then the next chapter, you end up meeting the person that set that up. And so like you kind of have an idea of who this character is now because you just spent an hour or so playing as them and kind of doing this whole kind of weird task. And then the second interlude, you are in a play and you have to figure out how to act in the play properly because you don't have any of the scripts or anything. You just are in the play. And so it's like, yeah, by the way, you're just going to you're in a bar, quote unquote. And these are the two characters on stage with you. Figure out how to interact with them.
Oh my god.
What? Yeah, it's great. It's this like weird thing, and there's like all these little weird things going on. Like as you're driving the car, it'll pull out sometimes, and it's like and just like in the foreground, all of a sudden there's just someone playing a banjo as they like inside like some rafters in a burned out barn as you're driving in the background, and it's all very atmospheric and very strange, and I just really want the ending of this game already.
I just need to know where it goes.
I just need to know.
Jeez.
So like
oh my God.
oh god, I love the indie stuff on Nintendo. Oh, I love it so much. So that's what I'm expecting, like a bunch of indie announcements and then Smash and Pokemon. Like those are the
pretty much.
big things. I don't know. Is there anything you're hoping for or waiting for? Is there anything that from any of these that you're hoping to see?
I mean,
or announced or anything like that?
like I said, just like in the joke throwaway, I do want a Quantum Break 2 and a sequel to Quantum Break and a sequel to Horizon Zero Dawn.
I want something from
I
Remedy.
I
I want something from
really
them.
I don't think it's gonna it's something might come, but it's not gonna be what I want it to be.
What I really want
But
from them is Alan Wake 2.
yeah,
That's what
see,
I really.
I never
That's
played that because the first
now
thing was Quantum Break that I ever
and now
played
you
from
like
them.
can't unless you can find a physical copy of
Yeah,
it for
no.
a console. You can't download it anymore
Nope.
because the music rights issues. It's officially gone from the ether.
Yeah. It's crazy. But I mean that, and then like I said, I'm really excited for Skull and Bones because I love that ship mechanic, and yeah, Pokemon.
More Pokemon.
More Pokemon.
More
I don't know.
Pokemon.
And
I loaded up Pokemon Go for the first time. I
did you?
re-downloaded it.
Oh
yeah.
no, there's an update for it that I have not done. I don't have space for it, and I'm like, I'm done with you, Pokemon Go. I have a new Let's Go to look forward to, and it has Eevee. I did. You're welcome for not doing the sound because I almost just did it. I need you to know that it took every ounce of my being to not do it. So you're welcome. But yeah, no, I'm pretty much just excited to see what's gonna get announced. Like it's really, and I'm excited to really be into it this year. Like
yeah, I mean it's one of those things where like
this was basically you giving me like the rundown of how E3 works and me just
I mean,
getting
ready. It really is like everything is like a 2-hour block, and it can be exhausting. And sometimes you don't care. Like you get to the end of it, and it's like, why did I do this to myself? But
like,
it is really fun. Like we did on Twitter, like with the Pokemon Let's Go reveal. Like it's a lot of that is what makes it fun. It's like watching everyone react to this thing in real time together. And coming together for just like 3 days and just being like, we are excited for these.
Yeah, that's what I am excited. That is,
yeah.
Because that, like I said last week, that Pokemon thing, sitting on my phone and being like, oh God, and then like it finally coming out, and then you and I like texted each other was really fun. So yeah, I'm definitely, like, I don't use Twitter. I have mentioned that. But Twitter notifications are going to be put on during E3 for me. Because that's the best place to get, like, up to the date. Up to the date. Yep.
Up to the date. Up to the date.
Up to the minute.
We're hilarious because we've never recorded this long before.
I know. Welcome to the 11th episode where all the rules go away. We're an hour and almost 40 minutes.
Yeah.
36 minutes in. Yeah.
Oh God.
Jesus.
Hey, you know what? If Senior can do a 2-hour Oscar special, we can do a couple weeks of long E3 episodes.
I'm okay with it. I learned a lot tonight. Let me tell you, you taught me a lot.
Oh, good.
Because
there's my teacher. See, I didn't need to be an English teacher. I needed to be a video game teacher, apparently.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, I got nothing. I have nothing else.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good until we start doing this weekend, and then it'll be exciting.
It's going to be good.
Yeah, like we said, the next 2 weeks will be E3 stuff because 2 weeks from now is when I will be.
Spoilers if you didn't get
out.
that.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now is when I will be out. So at the very least, we won't be squeezing. We're not going to give you like a 5-hour podcast on all of these things. As far as like most of these, I guarantee like at least one of these on both of those, we're going to go. I didn't see anything super interesting. We can just move on.
Exactly. Yeah.
So.
You know what would be funny if this was a movie or something, is that we record this hour and 40-minute episode and then nothing, no more E3 talk.
Yeah, all of the build up and no resolution.
Exactly.
Or somehow E3 gets canceled. Yeah. They're just like, sorry, video games. We gave up on video games, everybody.
Video games
canceled
are no
video
more.
Games.
Oh jeez. Oh man. But yeah, so it's pretty much gonna be 2 episodes of us blabbing about more video games.
Sorry, Mom and Dad. I know you wanted it to be more accessible, but that's not happening for a while.
Yay. Oh man. Well, as always, you can follow us on Twitter at sayreportjr. You can follow me at Dayle's Brain, which I need to specify how to spell Dayle's Brain. even though I said I would never do that again, but it is DAYLESBRAIN. Because
I love that
apparently,
you always hesitate on brain. You got your name down like nothing.
well, it's a
But
name, Zach.
brain is less like.
Yeah, I need to think about brain sometime.
You can follow me at Zerwisky, and I guess I'll spell that out for you. So now that I've made fun of you, let's watch me do this.
Yeah.
That's at ZERWISKI. Ha!
Oh,
I remember.
damn.
It's because I didn't put like a normal word in there. So
Well, there's a reason why I had to spell out my name, and it's kind of annoying. But yeah. Anyways,
and on that note, I got nothing else. You got anything?
I'm good.
Cool. Take it away, Liz. Bye.
Later.
Thank you for listening to The Say Report with your hosts Dayle Decker and Zack. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.